Hey guys, it's TheKamsh here. A lot of people have been asking for aggro content, so today we're going to be going over one of the oldest aggro decks in the game, Zoo. This is a new Zoo build I've been working on, and I've been doing really well. I win streaked from 10 to 5 yesterday. I think the deck is very promising, and among its many good matchups, Mech Mage is you just absolutely slaughter all the Mech Mages. So I'll be looking at the deck and going over some gameplay and general strategy and decision making with it. So I hope you enjoy. Alright, so looking at the deck here, for starters, we have one Power Overwhelming. All of the time, this can give you the burst you need to get the win, and also it can help you trade for the bigger taunts. Zoo's all about board. Can activate your Nerubian Eggs and Haunted Creepers, or like Echoing Ooze, so a lot of the time you won't be even losing value on the creature dying. Just a very strong card, gives your creature a lot of stats, lets it trade up. Only 1 mana, very strong. We're only playing a 1 of because we want to have lots of creatures in our hand. We don't want to have too many like buffs and not be able to do anything. Usually you don't want this in your opening hand, but it is pretty strong in the mid to late game. Moving on, Abusive Sergeant sort of single-handedly enables a lot of this deck. It once again can activate your Nerubian Eggs. It can let a lot of your smaller creatures trade up. It's a 2-1 on its own, which is very good for a 1-drop, and it gives something else to attack, so it can be used to get in for lethal, to trade up. It's a lot like Cruel Taskmaster in that it has a lot of versatility, and it also has very good stats for its cost. Very aggressive, strong creature. Moving on, we have Clockwork Gnome. You'll notice we're playing a lot of 1-drops, but we are not playing any Undertakers. So Clockwork Gnome, it's a 2-1 once again. 1-drops really make Zoo work. And 1 mana 2-1s, particularly strong in the deck. And this has the added bonus of giving us a spare part. A lot of the spare parts work well with Nerubian Egg as the attack, taunt, and stat switching spare parts activated. As well as with the rest of the deck, Echoing Ooze gets the buffs from all the spare parts cloned. And then just spare parts are very good in the deck in general. Freeze can be used to stop an opposing minion. And just a very good card in general. Moving on, Flame Imp, 1 mana 3-2. Dealing 3 damage to ourselves is irrelevant in almost every matchup. Against Phase Hunter, it's not the greatest, but it's still a 1 mana 3-2. Just starts bashing in our opponent. Coining 2 Flame Imps on turn 1 is one of the most powerful starts you can get. The 2 toughness is particularly important as it doesn't get cleared by a lot of the 1 damage AoE. And it's definitely one of the strongest cards in the deck, and the reason why Warlock has a very strong aggro deck. Moving on, Leper Gnome, continuing with 1 mana 2-1 with Upside theme. This deals an additional 2 damage, which it's actually worse than the other 2-1s because Zoo is about board, and we want to control the board rather than just dealing face damage. But the face damage is still good. Our ultimate goal is to kill our opponent, so the Leper Gnome is very strong in that respect. Moving on, Voidwalker. Voidwalker stops a lot of early aggression from our opponent. It trades really well with a lot of the other 2-1s or 1 health creatures our opponent may be playing. It can be buffed a lot with Direwolf or Abusive Sergeant to kill something with 2 or 3 health. And the 3 health it has stops it from dying to a lot of the 2 power early game minions that, for example, Mech Mage has. And also late game, it's not useless because it can be used to protect our more high value minions like Knife Juggler from attacks by being sort of just a human shield. I guess not human, it's a demon, but a demon shield, if you will, then. Moving on, Direwolf Alpha. Very strong, once again, activates the Nerubian Egg. Additionally, with cards like Implosion or a lot of the 1-1s we generate from things like Haunted Creeper, if you put Direwolf Alpha in the middle and then you start trading off all the 1-1s, they'll all be 2-1s, and once the ones adjacent to it die, then the next one will get the buff, and so on and so forth. So really this can sort of buff your whole team, which is very strong when you have a lot of minions on the board. This enables you to trade up with even very large creatures and also deal ridiculous amounts of damage in the space of 1 turn. And it also helps you control the board. Echoing Ooze. It's just 2 mana for 2 1-2s, so 2 mana for a 2-4 worth of stats, which is very strong. Also can be buffed with spare parts and Defender of Argus for a permanent buff. And it just helps us control the board. It helps us get things on the board, and Zoo always needs to have something on the board, so we have something to work with buffs. It's very strong against 1 health minions, and it's also good with power overwhelming because it leaves behind a guy even once you power one of them. So, just a very strong minion. We are playing the full 2, despite not playing Sea Giant, although it is a good Sea Giant enabler, should you want to go that route. It also works well with Knife Juggler, as it's 2 Knife Juggler triggers. Haunted Creeper, once again, this sort of fits the theme of things staying on the board. It's a 2-mana 1/2. When it dies, it makes 2 1/1s. So, you can buff this with Sergeant or Direwolf or Spare Parts or Dark Iron Dwarf, Defender of Argus, things like that. Trade it and then get 2 1/1s to stay on the board, which also work well with Direwolf Alpha. So it's just very strong in that respect. Also, if you suicide into something, when you have a Knife Juggler out, it'll give you 2 free Juggler triggers. Taunting it up is very strong, it still leaves the things behind, and it's just provides a lot of value for the deck, and Zoo needs that. And since you're drawing extra cards a lot of the time, a lot of turns you're tapping to draw extra cards, value minions like this just push you over the edge, and you have both value on board advantage and card advantage, and your opponent is just sitting there not being able to do anything. Knife Juggler, again, one of the most powerful cards in this deck. It works very well with Implosion, which generates a lot of minions, so you get to deal the damage, then make some imps, then deal more damage. It works well with all the things that leave behind a minion when they die. It works well with Echoing Ooze, and also just with all the 1-drops we have. We have 10 1-drops, and since we can just play a 1-drop, get a Juggler trigger, play another 1-drop, we can sort of use it to either nuke their board or deal a lot of extra damage. Juggler damage really adds up. Your opponent always has to clear it, or they're usually going to lose the game. And with the taunts we have, sometimes your opponent can't do that. And it's just a very strong card. Although it does have some RNG aspect. It's like a mini Ragnaros in this deck, if you will. So sometimes you will get frustrated with it, but overall it's definitely very worth it. One of the most powerful cards in the Zoo deck. Nerubian Egg, very strong since you can activate it a lot of ways yourself in this deck and just get a 4/4 for 2. But also it helps us play around AoE. A lot of decks that play things like Freeze Mage, multiple swipes, things like that, Baron-Geddon, Whirlwinds and Deathbites, all the things that deal AoE damage to your board. Nerubian Egg prevents that because once your opponent nukes your board, they won't be safe because you'll have a 4/4 afterwards to hit them in the face. So sometimes you won't even want to activate this, you'll want to just leave it and let it be sort of insurance against your board getting cleared. Other times you can taunt it up with things like Defender of Argus or Spare Parts, or give it extra attack, and you just get a 4/4, or really a 4/6 worth of stats for 2 mana, which is incredibly powerful just for 2 mana. It also gives Juggler triggers, so a core part of this deck. Haunted Creeper also helps play around AoE. As does our next card, Harvest Golem, which leaves behind the 2/1 when it dies. It's a 3-mana 2/3, so it'll help trade down against a lot of things. And against a lot of the 2-mana 2/3s and 2/3s that are popular in this format, like in Mech Mage, you can buff this with Direwolf, Spare Parts, Abusive Sergeants. You get the sort of buffing things theme. But it plays around AoE. It'll always leave behind a 2/1, so it's great value. It's a 4/4 worth of stats for 3 mana, and buffing it up will let you trade it, and oftentimes it'll survive, and even if it doesn't, it'll be behind the 2/1. Moving on, we have Implosion, which is 4 mana, deal 2 to 4 damage to a minion, and then you get to summon imps. So, Implosion not only usually removes a creature, or at least goes some of the way to removing a creature, it also gives you creatures on the board. So, that's just a really powerful effect. Not only does it work well with the other cards in the deck, like the Knife Juggler and Direwolf Alpha, but also against some of the more mid-range decks, if you kill the only creature they've been able to put out against you, and you get guys in the process, that'll be just too much for them to deal with. This card just does too many things, and it'll often just overwhelm your opponent, and they won't be able to win. Once again, some of the RNG aspect, but even when you're rolling 2, it's generally going to be a pretty powerful card. Moving on, we have a 1 of Dark Iron Dwarf. Dark Iron Dwarf is similar to Abusive Sergeant, and it's a powerful buff effect. It's also a solid body as a 4/4. But playing 2 is somewhat clunky, and if you play 2, sometimes you'll just have to play them as 4/4s, and we don't want to do that much. We want to get value, although sometimes it is right to play it as a 4/4. So we're just playing the 1 of because it can be good, but having a lot of them in your hand isn't always going to be great. We are playing 2 Defenders of Argus. Defender of Argus works really well with a lot of the cards in the deck. Obviously, taunting up a Nerubian Egg or a Haunted Creeper is a very strong roadblock for the opponent. And if you taunt up an Echoing Ooze, it'll make 2 2/3s with taunt in addition to whatever creature you may taunt up and the Defender of Argus itself. So it's a solid body that provides a powerful effect. You almost always have 2 creatures to taunt because of the survivability of the creatures in the deck. It also provides 2 additional points of damage, sort of in the way that Dark Iron Dwarf and Abusive Sergeant do while leaving a body. So very strong in that respect. And finally, we have Doomguard. classic sort of zoo card. It's a 5/7 charge. It'll make you discard 2 cards, but usually you can play around that by dumping your entire hand before you play the Doom card. And it's just 5 charge damage to either the face or to clear the board. It's a very strong creature. It doesn't get BGH'd, and it also has 7 toughness, which will help it survive through a lot of things. So very strong card. Helps sort of fill out the deck. We're not playing the one of Sea Giant that Zoo used to play just because BGH is everywhere. And playing Sea Giant isn't a great tempo play because we have to wait a turn for it to do anything. So we're a very low to the ground sort of aggressive deck. But people think that Zoo died with Undertaker. Speaking of which, we're not playing Undertaker anymore because a lot of the time it'll be a much worse Flame Imp. It's sort of like a Cogmaster, but it's not as reliable. So we're not playing that, we're just playing good creatures, aggressive creatures that'll stay on the board. So as I was saying, a lot of people think Zoo is dead and aren't prepared for it. A lot of times they'll mulligan for Handlock, which will help us out a lot, and also the most popular deck on ladder right now, Mech Mage, sorry, not Freeze Mage, although people are playing Freeze Mage, but Mech Mage is very weak against this deck because we just outrace them and outboard control them. So with that being said, we're going to jump into some matches and discuss how the deck is played. Thank you for watching this Decktech, and please stay tuned for the matches.